Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is October 1st, 2020, and the year is sliding into the last quarter. Thank goodness 2020 is almost over. Hopefully 2021 will be a lot better. Anyway, we have a really important show today. I've probably done more shows about menopause than any other podcaster out there. Not just because I've been podcasting longer than anybody else out there, which I really have. This November will be 15 years. But because I understand what it feels like to go through menopause. Back in around 2002, I was using a lot of performance-enhancing drugs. I was using lots of aromatase inhibitors, too, to keep the conversion of testosterone from converting over to estrogen at high amounts. And I caused some symptoms. And every time I would search for them on the internet, I would inevitably arrive at some menopause website. Hot flashes, sleeplessness, anxiety, confusion, brain fog. I mean, I couldn't work. My life was derailed. And back then I started saying, you know, if men went through menopause, they'd treat it a little bit differently. Most doctors dismiss women, it's the change of life, get used to it. I mean, if guys had to go through that, they wouldn't know. Somebody said, get used to them, they punch them. But anyway, we're going to talk about the appropriateness of HRT in women who have had their ovaries removed. And there's a variety of reasons. We'll discuss why women may have their ovaries removed in just a moment. Before we get started, I have to thank my title sponsor, which is Legendary Foods, eatlegendary.com. The code is SHR10 for 10% off. If you are a low carb, low sugar, high protein person, you will find amazing snacks at Legendary Foods. Eatlegendary.com. SHR10 for 10% off. So, welcome to the show, Dr. Stephanie Faubion. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much, Carl. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. So you heard my little intro, and I kind of told you off the air also what happened to me. And it was scary. I really thought that at first I thought I was going crazy. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety. I actually drove myself to the emergency room one night because I was sure I was dying. And every time I would search for my symptoms, because I felt like a ghost. I felt like I was haunting my own house. My wife was sleeping. My children were sleeping. I would go to sleep, and inevitably about 2 hours after going to sleep, I would wake up in a panic. And then I would haunt the house. I used to say I was haunting the house. I would walk around the house. I'd peer in bedrooms, and people were sleeping soundly. And I think, oh, I wish I could sleep. And then I'd go downstairs and I'd get on the laptop and I'd start searching for these symptoms. And I ended up almost always at a website called Power Surge. I don't even know if it's still around. But this was a website where women went to share answers about menopause symptoms. And I was afraid to post because I'm a guy. It's like, what am I doing here? It was just weird. But it was at that moment that I realized that, menopause could actually force a woman to give up the last third of her life.
Yes, you're exactly right. And your comment about thinking that you were dying it struck me, but I have had more than one patient. I work at the Mayo Clinic, and I have had more than one woman come in midlife really thinking she's dying because all of those symptoms are concerning. There can be weight gain and hair loss and anxiety symptoms and these night sweats. And if you look that up on the internet, you're going, oh my God, I'm dying of something and it's horrible and it's happening now. And, I really attribute this to a lack of education. So I always tell my patients, how we get the talk? when we're in 5th grade or so, and they tell us what's going to happen to our bodies when we start our periods. Women never get the talk when they're about to stop their periods at their end of the reproductive lifespan. And so it leads to a lot of anxiety and fear about these symptoms that occur. And as you mentioned, these are not uncommon symptoms, and they're not short-lived for most women. They're going to last for quite a long time. And we're learning more and more they're not benign either, for a number of reasons, both in terms of longer-term health risk, but also in terms of economic impact. So lost work productivity, more healthcare expenses. So these are not benign symptoms.
Yeah, and the reality is, and you said lack of education. I interviewed a scientist probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and we talked about the fact that research doesn't use female rodents because of the pesky hormone estrogen. Like they don't want to by chance ruin the outcome and endpoints of their study because of that. They actually called it the pesky hormone. I'm
Right.
like, so these drugs that they're developing, they don't even know if they work in women half the time.
That's so true. And, that's true. So back in the day, and even still today, in a lot of cases, they didn't want to use female animals in studies because they couldn't tell what time of the cycle they were in. They bled. They did irritating things like get pregnant. I mean, so they didn't use female animals. And it was only in 2016 that the NIH required reporting of the sex of the cell or the animal and required inclusion of women in studies. This did not happen until 2016. And even though scientists are now reporting the sex of the animal or the cell or the person in their studies, they don't always disaggregate the data by sex. And what that means is they might say the results of the study and they might say we had 50% women in there, but they don't look at the results based on sex. So we are still having trouble understanding if that drug or if that device or if that treatment is the same in men as it is in women, and vice versa. So keep in mind, this also helps men's health. If we determine how men are different from women and how women are different from men, it helps both men and women.
Excuse me. So let's talk about this research. I understand hysterectomies, but obviously ovariectomies, or what do you call them? Oophorectomies? Is that the proper terminology?
Oophorectomy, typically, when you're talking about humans.
Okay. So when women, let's say, have been identified as having the BRCA gene, which tends to make them more predisposed to ovarian cancer, as a prophylaxis, they'll elect to go and have their ovaries removed. But they're also really creating an early onset of menopause, right?
Exactly. So average age of menopause in the United States is about 51.4 years. And so women with a BRCA gene mutation are at increased risk, not just for ovarian cancer, but for breast cancer too. And so they might elect to have their ovaries out early to reduce not only ovarian cancer risk, but also breast cancer risk. And the recommendation now for women with that BRCA1 mutation is as early as taking those ovaries out at the age of 35. So when you think about that, that's really inducing menopause, and not gradually, but suddenly, with a surgery at the age of 35, as opposed to the normal age, which is a little over 50.
Okay, so now these women immediately start developing those symptoms that all women develop, and me, when they go through menopause, and it's horrible. So they do this great thing, this heroic thing. They say, okay, I'm going to go in and have my ovaries removed so that I'll be here for my family and be here for myself and be productive and not have to worry about this all the time. But then they come home, and I got to believe within a matter of weeks, they feel like someone else. They feel horrible. They start having hot flashes. They can't sleep, vaginal dryness, all these things just pop up. First of all, do physicians counsel their patients that are going in for elective surgery like this? Hey, when on the other side, your life's going to suck.
I wish it happened more than it does. In our own clinics now, we've set up we have made an appointment ahead of time mandatory to discuss just that. because often women don't understand, and sometimes it happens not within weeks, but within hours of surgery that women are feeling pretty miserable. Now, one important point is that it is really important to distinguish women who have their ovaries out for a need. For example, the BRCA mutation would be a legitimate need to reduce a very significant risk of ovarian cancer. But there are still many women out there who are undergoing removal of their ovaries for less medically sound reasons, let's put it that way. And unless there is a really, really defined need to remove the ovaries, they should not be removed. And unfortunately, that is still happening in the United States quite a lot. So the importance here is to emphasize that before anyone suggests you get your ovaries out before the age of 50, you really need to talk to an expert about that and make sure that it is really necessary.
So give me an idea of what are less medically sound. I know that women who have PCOS, sometimes if a cyst bursts, they'll be told that they have to have the ovaries removed. I know that some women undergo hysterectomies because the endometrium is changing, and the doctor goes, and while we're in there, we'll just take your ovaries too. Like, yes. what give the women listening to the show, give me an idea of what you consider less medically sound that you should go and have a second opinion.
I think anytime anyone is suggesting ovaries come out for a non-malignant reason, so if anytime it's not a cancer or a risk for a cancer, you should think twice. So that includes pain, that includes endometriosis, that includes cysts, that includes we're getting your uterus out, we might as well take your ovaries. I mean, that should never be done anymore. So really there are very few reasons that a woman should have her ovaries out before the natural age of menopause, with the exception of a cancer or a very high risk for a cancer.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it's funny because my ex-wife, we were in Chicago on vacation with the kids, and I only had 2 children at the time. And she ended up having an emergency appendicitis at Northwest Memorial. And they said, I will never forget, I was sleeping on that little tiny love seat in the solarium. And the surgeon comes out and wakes me up. It was a woman too. She says, look, we got the appendix all taken care of. But now that we're in there, we think we should go ahead and just do a complete hysterectomy because she's had this dripping from the appendix. It's caused a lot of scar tissue. And I said, well, did you ask her? And she goes, well, we can't ask her. She's under the anesthesia. I says, no, I can't give you orders to take her. I says, if I went to sleep and I woke up without my bees, I'd want to know who authorized that. You know, like who the hell said you could do that? And I'll never forget it. She bristled and she said to me, well, you're just going to have it done later and she'll never be able to get pregnant again. And my ex-wife cried for 2 years. She got pregnant after that.
See, there you go. There you go. And that's a very good point, because how often do we go up to men and say, we're just, you don't need those testicles anymore. Yeah. We're just going to take those out.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
No, but women see, and that's because I really feel that medicine has ignored women and almost relegates them to, it's in your head. Oh, go away. It's just really, let me give you a Xanax. Just take Xanax. Go. And I really do think medicine does that. Now that we have more women in practice, I think it's less and less and less. But I think, 30, 40, 50 years ago, men just dismissed women. Yeah, take her oviries and get her out of here.
Exactly. Just be done with the problem. But I think it's important to note, these symptoms of menopause. I mean, we used to pat women on the head and say, it'll be a year or two, that it's going to be short-lived. Don't worry, it'll be fine. And we now know that menopausal symptoms at the normal menopausal age, so I'm talking about women who are in their 50s, the mean duration of symptoms is 7 to 9 years. And about a third of women are going to hot flash moderately to severely for a decade or longer. So these are not short-lasting symptoms. So when I talk to women with symptoms, I say, okay, think about this in the longer haul, because if you can get by with it for a month or two, that may not cover what we need here. These symptoms may go on for quite some time. So if you're really bothered by them, we need to really do something about it.
So now let's talk about HRT. Excuse me. I've done numerous studies on HRT for both men and women. And a lot of the emerging research kind of contradicts the whole women's initiative study, and we don't know what portion of what they learned there was because they were using equine estrogens, and what portion of it was because they were using methylated estrogens that increased thrombotic index and all that sort of stuff. But what we do know now, and we're starting to see a clear picture, that HRT can protect the woman's heart, her brain, improve the quality of life, obviously mitigate a lot of these symptoms, but these symptoms aren't necessarily life-threatening, but your heart and your brain are. So what about HRT for these women? They've just had their ovaries removed to get rid of estradiol that's going to cause cancer. And now a doctor's going to say, okay, we're going to give you, whether bioidentical or some other preparation, we're going to give you estradiol now.
Yeah, I know that sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? So you brought up several important points. One, let's just talk about the term HRT for a couple of seconds. So we're no longer calling menopausal hormone therapy replacement, because think of it this way: for a woman at the average age of menopause who's 50, we are not trying to replace what her ovary used to make. We're trying to make her symptoms better. So for that woman who's over 50, we're just calling it menopausal hormone therapy now. But when you talk about a 35-year-old who got her ovaries out, we are actually trying to replace what the ovaries used to make. So in that case, the term replacement would be very appropriate. So for that woman, what we know about, and you brought up really important point too about heart and brain risk and bone risk. Those are the three that we really are concerned about: is the risk for heart disease, the risk for osteoporosis, the risk for dementia. And when you take a woman's ovaries out and deprive her of estrogen at the age of 35, she is at significantly increased risk for heart disease, for osteoporosis, for Parkinsonism, for memory loss, for dementia, and even early mortality. So yes, we did reduce her risk of breast cancer, and we did reduce her risk of ovarian cancer, but we increased her risk of pretty much everything else. And so we took into account that balance. And when we looked at all the data, there really is no data that giving a little bit of estrogen back to these women that we took their ovaries out, there's no data that we're increasing her risk of breast cancer. So she still did herself a benefit by taking the ovaries out. But if we give some back to help protect her bones, her brain, and her heart, we don't appear to be increasing her risk of breast cancer. And we're talking about giving it back at least until the natural age of menopause, so about the age of 50, 51. So that is the current practice for those women who have a BRCA mutation who have not had breast cancer. Okay, so that's key. If they have had breast cancer, it's a whole other discussion. But if they have not had breast cancer and we're removing the ovaries and there was no ovarian cancer, we still tend to give those women estrogen at least until age 50 or so.
So it's funny. There's a doctor in Toronto. She's got an Italian name, and I can't remember it, but I communicated with her when I first started doing this podcast because my sister died from Parkinson's disease. And they did a study on rodents. Back in the 60s in New York, when I was a child, all the junkies were developing Parkinsonism because they were cutting the heroin with an industrial solvent called MPTP. And lo and behold, science has found a use for it now. They use it in labs when they want to create a Parkinson's model. They'll give rodents MPTP, and they develop tremor and Parkinsonism within hours. And this doctor, I wish I could remember her name, she took rodents, and one group she infused with saline, and one group she infused with estradiol and saline, obviously, the fluid. And then they gave the rodents MPTP, and the sham rodents, they developed Parkinsonism that day, within hours. But the group that was getting infused with estradiol withstood developing Parkinsonism for 6 weeks. And when I read that study, I thought, why aren't they giving people with Parkinson's disease estradiol?
Oh, it's very interesting.
Men develop Parkinson's 5-fold more frequently than women until women go through menopause.
Yep. So estrogen is protective of the many aspects of the nervous system. So that's a very interesting finding. I hadn't heard that before.
And then the other thing I want to say about estradiol that's important, we all talk about chronic inflammation. Everybody talks about chronic inflammation. Inflammation causes disease. It's linked to senescent cell development, blah, blah, blah. Well, estradiol docks in a receptor called the fibroblast activation factor receptor, FAF, and immediately suppresses inflammation dramatically. Like if you're in a car accident and your head hits the windshield, your brain, because of the aromatase enzyme, immediately starts to aromatize androgens into estradiol, and it stops the brain from swelling. That's how powerful estradiol is. And this idea that we just don't need it, it just drives me crazy when I hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and especially if you look at the data, it's very clear for women who have early menopause, unless there is a dire reason not to take it, like an estrogen sensitive tumor, like a breast cancer. There is absolute clear data on the benefit of women using it, at least until the natural age of menopause.
Now, you are with an organization called the North American Menopause Society, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
I'm the medical director.
You're the medical director, and you have a website called menopause.org where women can go and read, and practitioners can go too. There's a lot of practitioners who just really don't have their hands around this. They don't understand it. They can go there and be trained through your organization as well, right?
Yes, we have the NAMS Certified Menopause Practitioner Certificate. So there's a program where you can become certified in menopause management, and then that certification is made available to the public. So we train people to be experts in menopause, and you can actually go to the website and type in your location and find a certified menopause expert near you.
So in this study that was recently published, and I know you're not one of the authors, but they're within your organization there, is there a recommendation to physicians who are treating women who have never had a breast cancer or ovarian cancer, and they have chosen to have their ovaries removed as a protective mechanism against developing cancer because they have the BRCA gene? Is the recommendation to give them low doses, just get them out of the woods kind of doses, or give them doses that bring them back to whatever their age appropriate levels would have been?
The latter. They should have doses that bring them back to the normal premenopausal range. And again, there is no evidence that doing so increases the risk of breast cancer. So yes, absolutely. The sad part is that we know that these women typically don't get estrogen until the age of 50 for a variety of reasons. Either they're fearful or their provider is fearful. But these women often don't get the estrogen that they need until that menopausal age.
There was probably a decade ago when replacement therapies became popular for women. There was this notion that there was a short window of time once the cessation of the period occurred, amenorrhea, that if you didn't get on HRT, it actually would be bad for you. But that seemed to have changed recently. There seems to be emerging research that there are women out there who are getting on very, very late in life, 10, 15, 20 years after the cessation of their period, and they're benefiting from a hormone replacement. Where does your organization stand on that?
Well, I think the data, not to go back to the WHI, but there has been some recent data out of the WHI that I'd like to talk about later with regard to breast cancer risk specifically, which was favorable. But let's go back to this window of opportunity a bit. The WHI is the only randomized controlled clinical trial that we have on hormone therapy that is robust, and that supplies this data specifically. And actually, the ELITE trial also did. But there is definitely a window in terms of cardiovascular risk, and that is probably within 10 years of your last menstrual period is where that window is. If you're beyond that, the risk is probably not decreased, and it may be increased in terms of cardiovascular risk. Theoretically, you would still get bone benefit if you started it later. and earlier, but you're going to get more benefit if you start it earlier because you won't lose as much bone. So I think it's pretty clear that, and all of the medical societies suggest that starting it earlier is better. So there is not a single medical society out there that recommends starting it after 10 years after your last menstrual period. And to be honest, those women are not the ones in our offices asking for hormone therapy. It's the symptomatic woman who's hot flashing and night sweating and not sleeping and brain fog. Those women don't wait 10 years to come into your office.
Yeah,
they're in your office right away. So those are the majority. That's who really should be considering hormone therapy, not the 80-year-old, not the 70-year-old.
Yeah, because they don't have symptoms. They've been through it, and if they had any symptoms, they're long gone now.
We would like to think, but I still have a fair number of 70-year-olds in my practice who are still on hormone therapy because they're still having hot flashes.
I want to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about a few other things as it relates to cancer in general. We're talking with Dr. Stephanie Faubion. Did I say that right? Faubion?
Exactly right.
Okay. And she is the medical director at the North American Menopause Society. The website is menopause.org. Go there to learn more. We're going to take one quick commercial break and we'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio.
Mind Bullet is a kratom product derived from the coffee family to boost energy and creative juices. Mind Bullet comes in both pill and liquid form for the ultimate pre-workout supplement. When needing a little pick-me-up or to get through the morning fog, Mind Bullet will set your productive course fast. Go to shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet, all one word, today, and save 20%. No subscription required. That's shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet. Get yours today.
I love beef. And if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 25% off all beef and free shipping on orders of $100 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to Piedmontese.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at Synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety, or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety away, which I have a long history of having. Started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I found that actually in the middle of a panic attack I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon 1 banner ad today.
Want to improve mental energy and focus? Try the new Superhuman Stack from Pure Nootropics. Stack Dynamins, Albumin, Theocrine, and palmitoyl ethanolamide together and feel the lights go on in your brain. Find your perfect mix of these four. Carl likes 1 cap of each and 2 caps of Dynamin. Bam! Lights on. Go to shrnetwork.biz/superhuman stack, all one word, today, and get yours for 25% off plus free shipping. That's shrnetwork.biz/superhuman stack.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. Later in the show, we're going to talk about food prep. Successful dieting and weight loss requires that you pay attention to the food that you eat, and it requires you to prep your food. You can't just spontaneously go, oh, it's 12 o'clock, I got to go get something to eat. And convenient foods play a role in that. So that's later in the show. Right now, we're talking with Dr. Stephanie Faubion, and we're talking about menopause, really. So there's a lot of great emerging research in the epigenetics area. We know from twin studies that women who have the BRCA gene don't necessarily develop breast cancer or ovarian cancer. Some do, some don't. Is your organization looking more at epigenetic effects on these genes and lifestyle and things that could influence the onset of these cancers?
Well, yes, not only the onset of cancers, but what is the impact of epigenetics and estrogen on aging and on women in general? And so you can't ignore epigenetics. So we know the genes don't tell the whole story because your lifestyle, how you live your life, impacts the expression of those genes. So a gene could act in a different way depending on whether you have a healthy lifestyle or whether you have an unhealthy lifestyle. So I think we all need to understand that just because we're set up with a set of genes, going in and testing your genetic makeup may be helpful for some clear diseases that have like a BRCA mutation, for example. But it again doesn't guarantee you of getting a disease or not getting a disease. And what you do in your life and what you're exposed to, like tobacco, smoke, or toxins, or again, what you put in your body in terms of food makes a huge difference. The amount of sleep you get, for example. So we have an impact, and we have more of an impact than we think we do on the outcomes of our genetic makeup.
Are you familiar with Dr. Thomas Seyfried's work, Cancer as a Metabolic Disorder or Disease?
I don't think so, no.
He's done some really amazing research, and he published a book called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, where they took the mitochondria from cancer cells and implanted them into healthy cells and vice versa. And they determined that the mitochondria changes first before the oncogenes switch. And that once the mitochondria, has switched to anaerobic respiration, where now, it's looking for sugar, right? Glycolysis. This is what triggers the cancer. And his book shows that diet is really the first domino, and which leads me to this next question. So there is an emerging theory that the reason that postmenopausal women develop body fat is because their body is trying to replace the estradiol that the ovaries are no longer making. By increasing fat cells, you increase aromatase, and so you end up having higher estradiol levels, which also means that lean women tend to have tougher menopausal symptoms and more robust, women who have more body fat, subcutaneous body fat, tend to have less of their symptoms. Do you see that at all, just anecdotally?
Actually, no, the reverse is kind of true. Heavier women tend to have worse menopausal symptoms than leaner women. But this is a very complicated scenario. And maybe anthropologically, you could have said that the postmenopausal woman is trying to replace her estrogen, and that's why she develops more body fat. But I think it's more the other way around. We lose estrogen and we develop more body fat in the wrong places, and we turn into more men, like men. So we're turning more into apples than pears, and that increases our cardiovascular risk. But in clinical practice, no, actually, we know it's the heavier women that have worse symptoms. I have had, it's very interesting, women who are on hormone therapy after menopause who lose weight tend to get more hot flashes then. So what hormone therapy dose was working for them before can sometimes not be enough if they lose enough fat, and the fat was producing estrogen. So sometimes their estrogen requirement might go up if they lose weight. So what you're saying, there's a certain component of that that's true, but I think women who are heavier sweat more, and so they tend to have more symptoms.
Okay. The other thing is the complexity of a woman's cycle, the ebb and flow of progesterone and estrogen and oxytocin and everything else is very complex. And there's a unique signature to every woman. And then to just give a static dose of, these hormones, isn't there a way to kind of go, okay, we need to look at women and we need to give them these hormones at this period of time and more of a cyclical dose? Do you think that would be beneficial for women?
We don't know. So the answer to that is we don't know if there is any benefit to creating a cyclical pattern after menopause or not. In fact, I was just in a research meeting just before this podcast, and we were having that very discussion of whether we were sort of recreating, and we were talking about obesity and obesity management and women on hormone therapy, and did we need to sort of recreate the premenopausal status with the cyclical nature or not? And the fact is that no one knows. So we don't know if there's any benefit to that post-menopause.
Yeah. And the part B of that question is, I see a lot of physicians who do hormone replacement therapies for women who give them the prescribed dose, this is the starting dose of this and that and the other thing. Send them home, and then they check their levels and they go, oh, well, you're in these ranges. Do you have any symptoms? No, I don't have any symptoms. And then, okay, you're done. But I when I look at the luteal phase and the follicular phase and you look at how progesterone is here and estrogen is there, I often wonder if HRT should focus to put a woman permanently in the luteal phase or the follicular phase. Like shouldn't there be like a target? Like women will do better in this phase as opposed to that, because we know that progesterone and estrogen, when they ebb and flow, they cause a lot of physiological issues and mood and stuff like that. Do doctors, is the current prescribing method to say, okay, we want to put a woman from now for the next 10 years until she's 51, we want to put her in the follicular phase or the luteal phase or the ovulatory phase, because that's where women do the best?
Okay, let's separate this answer into women who are under the age of 50, so that those young women like we're talking about with BRCA, and the women over 50.
Okay.
So first let's talk about women over 50. And those women, we are not aiming to get to a certain hormone level. We are only aiming to manage their symptoms. Okay. And so we don't draw levels. There's no recommendation to check levels in women over the age of 50. We're just managing symptoms. And if we manage the symptoms, that's all we need to do. But for women under the age of 50, there is growing concern about the fact that we don't know what dose or hormone level is adequate to protect the brain, the heart, and the bone. We have the most data on the bone, like how much hormone therapy is needed to protect the bone. We don't have that data on the heart and the brain. And so currently, some investigators actually at the Mayo Clinic are looking at just that. And is there a certain blood level or dosage that achieves those outcomes of reducing the markers of heart disease risk and brain function, et cetera? So we're looking at that, but no one knows what levels are adequate. But more and more, we are trying to at least aim for the normal premenopausal range.
Right.
So that estrogen range is 80 to 120 picograms per ml. And sometimes normal postmenopausal doses don't get a younger woman there. So it's sometimes actually fairly difficult to get a woman to that range with postmenopausal doses. So your question is quite valid, but unfortunately, we just don't have that information
there yet. Yeah. Why 50 to 51? What, like, it seems like a dirty trick. Okay, you know, you had your ovaries removed for BRCA. We put you on hormone replacement therapy. You feel great. You're doing great. Life is wonderful. No symptoms. Oh, you're 51. We're stopping now. Why? Why not just let them go?
Well, again, we don't have a lot of data in the BRCA population of are we then increasing risk. We know we got you to at least the average age of menopause, and that should be enough to protect your bone, your brain, and your heart up until that time. But from then on, it's kind of gravy, if you will. I hear you. It seems like cruel and unusual punishment for people who are doing well, but that's where the breast cancer risk factors in. I will let you know, and this was what I was going to tell you earlier, the Women's Health Initiative, some recent data, and this was just published in the last month, came out and they looked at those women who had a hysterectomy, who were on conjugated equine estrogens alone, no progestogen, and they looked at the mortality and the breast cancer incidence. So mortality related to breast cancer and breast cancer incidence up to the present time. So this is 17 years, right? So what they found is that on CEE, conjugated equine estrogens, compared to nothing, compared to placebo, that there was a lower incidence of breast cancer in those women on conjugated equine estrogens. There was also a reduced breast cancer mortality, significantly reduced breast cancer mortality in women who were on estrogen compared to nothing. And now the other group, the women with a uterus, who also had to take the medroxyprogesterone acetate to protect that uterine lining, increased incidence of breast cancer, but no increased mortality after that long-term follow-up. So it's actually quite reassuring data regarding hormone therapy of that particular type. So we're not extrapolating to estradiol because we really can't. But with conjugated equine estrogens, it was very reassuring regarding the breast cancer risk.
I wonder what feeling good and being actively engaged in life conferred on that outcome. In other words, you know, when women go through menopause, they feel horrible. They don't move anymore. They don't want to do anything, you know, but if you feel good and you're still active and you're moving, and then also a lot of times women who are on hormone replacement therapy tend to be very mindful of what they eat. You know what I mean? Because they know that, oh, there's a little boogeyman back here, something, you know, I got to be careful. I wonder if taking the conjugated equine estrogens also caused some sort of lifestyle changes that helped confer those effects.
You know, that's a good thought, and that's called the healthy user bias. So that women who use hormones tend to be healthier anyway, is the theory there. But that doesn't hold true for a randomized controlled clinical trial, because the women on placebo also thought they were getting a drug.
What a dirty trick. I'm sorry.
And also, the women in the Women's Health Initiative study were not symptomatic. So they got on a drug when they had no symptoms.
That's fascinating. I want to take our last commercial break. And when we come back, I want to wrap up the discussion and ask what you hope clinicians and lay people take away from this research and cover that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Are you still on the fence about body protection complex BPC oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus Lifting Company gym in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. You know, I'm 58 years old, so just older tendon kind of issues. For us powerlifters, you know, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through. And I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do those with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, drseeds.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today. Chronic stress leaves us tired, distracted, and physically vulnerable. Apollo Neuro is here to help you take control. Apollo Neuro is a new wearable that trains your nervous system to be more resilient to stress. Apollo's gentle vibrations use your sense of touch to help you recover from stress, going from fight or flight to rest and digest so you can relax, get to sleep, focus, and stay healthy. Developed by physicians and neuroscientists, Apollo Neuro has been tested in multiple clinical trials and is proven to improve heart rate variability, the key biometric of stress. Special offer for friends of Superhuman Radio. Try Apollo Neuro today and get 15% off your purchase at apolloneuro.com/superhuman. That's APOLLONEURO.com/superhuman.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Everybody wants to feel better, be healthier and happier. If you don't sweat profusely on a regular basis, you won't feel as good as you could. Studies have shown the power of infrared sauna. Infrared penetrates 1 to 2 inches into the body. It helps those with back pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis, depression, and anxiety. Patients get relief from infrared sauna. The Good Health Sauna has been shown to be an exercise mimetic, conveying many of the same benefits as cardio. There are a lot of reasons people buy a Good Health Sauna, but the bottom line is you will be a much happier, healthier person by using the Good Health Sauna every day. You'll crave it, you'll love it, and it will be the best purchase you have ever made. Good Health Saunas provide commercial-grade saunas for in-home and commercial use, backed by the best lifetime warranty in the industry. Unmatched customer service and the best financing makes owning one easy and will fit any budget. Go to goodhealthsauna.com/superhumanradio to learn more and save 25% off. My friends over at Bioptimizers, makers of industry-leading digestive supplements, have created a special recipe for you that helps boost brain performance in the morning. They make products Primergen V and Primergen M, potent liquid vitamins and mineral formulas loaded with absorbable vitamin Bs and trace minerals in a fulvic and humic acid base. You stack that with 3 capsules of Capex, their enzyme and energy supplement, and the effect is even stronger. You'll be buzzing without jitters or any negative side effects for hours. Bioptimizers calls this the Brain Boost Stack, and they're running a special promotion for you at shrnetwork.biz/brainstack. That's shrnetwork.biz/brainstack. You can get an additional 10% off from the normal package price with the coupon code SHR10. It's a powerful way to get your brain going and optimize your daily focus, memory, and performance.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Stephanie Faubion from the North American Menopause Society. Their website is menopause.org. You can go there, learn more. If you're a physician, you can go there and really learn more and help more patients as well. So what do you hope clinicians take away from this recent research?
You know, I a couple of things. One, we should not be taking ovaries out that don't need to come out. So that is number one. Let's not get ourselves into this situation if we don't absolutely have to be here. And number two, women with a BRCA mutation who have not had breast cancer or ovarian cancer and take their ovaries out early for risk reduction purposes should take hormone therapy up until the natural age of menopause. So I think those are the 2 key points from this study.
Yeah, you know, on the flip side, you know, there's so many approaches that we've developed as it comes to that affect sex hormones. You know, sex hormones are so important to us. They convey so many benefits. You know, from an evolutionary perspective, we have one job on this planet, that's to have offspring and then die. And when you think about the importance of that from a species specific standpoint, anything that has to do with procreation is a big deal. Like I've been saying for years on the show that if you lose your libido, start looking for what's wrong with you, because once your libido is gone, you're not going to be around much longer. That's the canary in the mine. And if you start to think about sex hormones, because the word sex is attached to them, it's like a parlor. You know, we have to giggle. Sex hormones. You know, it's like we need to start thinking about sex hormones as improving and extending life. And you know, they do this to men with prostate cancer. They give them androgen deprivation therapy. It's horrible. Gives them the testosterone levels of a 14-year-old girl. I did a show back in 2006 from a doctor, Dr. Paul Godley with Rutgers. They wrote a position paper on behalf of the Journal of the American Cancer Society, and they did a meta-analysis of a vast amount of research, and they said androgens do not cause or contribute to prostate cancer. In fact, they found it correlated more with sex hormone binding globulin than androgens. And the letter was designed to tell doctors that robbing a man of testosterone is not going to protect his prostate. And, you know, it's horrible when we do things that interfere with sex hormone production, because that pretty much ruins life. And then I've had this conversation with people. Well, my dog lives longer. We're not dogs. You know, don't tell me your dog lives longer if you neuter him. We're not dogs. And to your point, any doctor who's thinking of taking a woman's ovary should ask himself a question. Would I want someone to take my testicles for this reason? And if you say no, then don't take that woman's ovaries.
Yeah, I think that is the key point. You know, I think one concept that a lot of people don't get is that estrogen, so our main primary sex hormone for women, there are estrogen receptors in every tissue and organ system in our bodies. So this is not just about the ovaries, it's not just about the breasts, and it's not just about sex either. It's really about the health of our entire body. So when we lose estrogen, it has effects everywhere as well, and especially when we lose estrogen before we're supposed to lose it in midlife. So there are key things that are happening that are necessary. And, you know, we're just at the very infancy of trying to figure out what all estrogen does in our bodies and the effects that it has. So we are just at the very beginning of trying to sort all of this out. But one thing is clear, that taking the ovaries out before they aren't working anymore is a really bad idea. And to that point, even at the age of 50, when we start our periods around that time, we think the ovaries are still putting out small amounts of hormones, probably until the age of 65 or so. So there's probably benefit to not taking them out even after we stop our periods. They're probably still doing something to maintain health. So again, even if you've stopped your periods, there's very little reason to take your ovaries out unless you're at high risk for cancer.
Don't ovaries make testosterone also? Isn't that where a woman makes the little amounts of testosterone?
About half the testosterone for a woman comes from the ovary, and the other half comes from the adrenal glands. But testosterone production from the ovary doesn't go through a menopause, if you will. So we don't stop testosterone production at menopause, but rather it's a slow, steady decline with age, such that between the ages of 20 and 40, just like in men, our testosterone levels half. As produced by the ovaries. So we have a decline in testosterone production, just like men do between the ages of 20 and 40, but we don't fall off a cliff in terms of testosterone levels at menopause.
Right. Yeah, we just become grumpy and mean slowly. So Weston A. Price, when he did a lot of his research with the indigenous cultures, what we would call hunter-gatherers today, he found that their women didn't go through menopause until probably in 60s and even older. How much does lifestyle and environment play? Because I know women can go through menopause from traumatic events. So how much does our lifestyle and environment play in why women go through menopause at around 51 and not 61 or 71?
Yeah, that's a good question. So over the amount of time that we've been monitoring age at menopause, it really hasn't changed all that much. There have been there's some variations in terms of overall health. For example, when there's a famine or a war, and women are thinner and their nutrition's not as good, they tend to go through menopause a little bit earlier. So in first world countries, it's about the same. It's about 50. In third world countries, it tends to be a little younger. So no doubt that, lifestyle and food availability, health in general is going to have an impact on the age. I don't know that we're ever going to get to where we're having menopause at 60 on average, but it's stayed pretty consistent for the developed world.
The Madonna Del Grazie Institute on Menopause, and I think they're in Rome, Italy. Are you familiar with them at all?
No.
Okay, so they did a study probably about 8 or 9 years ago. No one's ever reproduced the study, so nobody takes it with any real value. But they gave women melatonin, 3 milligrams of melatonin. All of these women had been amenorrheic. They had not had a period in at least 6 months. And they were having that, their periods were really whacked out. None of them were coming regular. And so they gave them 3 milligrams of melatonin. They required them to take it at this, whatever sundown was in their part of the country. And all of the women regained their menstrual cyclicity. Now, no one has ever taken this study seriously. I've talked about the study probably 12 years ago because it's that old, because no one's ever reproduced it. What do you think about that? What do you know about the body?
I don't know what to say about melatonin and the effect of the ovaries. And it just makes you wonder if women weren't sleeping and regulating their sleep cycle helped them get back onto a regular schedule. Who knows? I don't know what to make of that, but for sure, as we get closer to menopause, it can be anything that sort of knocks us off to where things aren't working right. And I tell women that. I said, it could be that you have an illness, you get the flu and your ovaries don't work for a couple of months, but then they might come back for a while, or you might have a significant psychosocial stress, a death in the family, and your ovaries don't work for a couple of months. But it sort of happens in that way. But eventually the ovaries are just going to stop working with time. But I have no doubt that physical stress, emotional stress can have an impact on ovarian function.
Last question. Senescent cells. We talk a lot now about senescent cells since about 2014. I take 6 milligrams of rapamycin once a week. I've become very close friends with Dr. Mikhail Blagascloni. He's the trailblazer. He was an oncologist who discovered how rapamycin and azithromycin, kind of destroy. They change senescent cells back into quiescent cells. Do we know if there's any senescent cell accumulation in ovaries?
Well, I'm not a basic scientist. I'm sure there are senescent cells that accumulate in ovaries as time goes by, because really, when we're looking at ovarian function, the minute we're born as females, we start to lose follicles. So we are born with the highest number of follicles or eggs that we're going to have when we're born. But by the time we actually start our periods, a good number of them have become senescent or died. So yes, no doubt that is occurring throughout our lifespan, and the speed at which it occurs is the question, right?
Yeah. Okay. Listen, fascinating stuff. I love this work. I hope more people listen to you, especially clinicians and treating their patients. Thanks for being on the show, Dr. Faubion.
Thanks so much. It was my pleasure. I appreciate it.
Take care. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about food prep. In order to have successful weight loss, you have to create a diet menu. And in order to do that, quite often it requires food preparation. And food preparation can be a real pain in the neck. That's why a lot of people don't want to do it. What we're going to talk about is when there are choices out there of foods that are so convenient, they make food prep almost do itself. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. We'll be here. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. I love beef. And if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 25% off all beef and free shipping on orders of $100 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to Piedmontese.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again.
Mind Bullet is a kratom product derived from the coffee family to boost energy and creative juices. Mind Bullet comes in both pill and liquid form for the ultimate pre-workout supplement. When needing a little pick-me-up or to get through the morning fog, Mind Bullet will set your productive course fast. Go to shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet, all one word, today, and save 20%. No subscription required. That's shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet. Get yours today. Give yourself a reason to get back in the gym with Planet Earth Pre-Workout CBD. With a delicious blue ice flavor, this pre-workout can power you up to achieve your goals. After a strenuous workout, reward yourself with Planet Earth's post-workout powder. This highly advanced formula consists of premium-grade ingredients to support growth, recovery, and your overall performance. Power up, cool down, and gain muscle with Planet Earth CBD. Go to shrnetwork.biz/power and save 20%. Use code POWER. Don't wait. Order now.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
When craving a snack, reach for Select Savory Snack Sugar-Free Biltong, the healthy alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. They use a fattier cut of beef, making it more tender and flavorful. For mealtime, choose from their 63 seasonings, which are sugar and additive-free. From chipotle rub to savory pumpkin spice, you'll find an option to suit your palate. Go to shrnetwork.biz/SSS today. Use code SHR15 to save 15% on any meat snack or seasoning. Savor the flavor today.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Back to Superhuman Radio. We're joined by Cory Conklin from Select Savory Snacks. How you doing, Cory?
I am wonderful. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to talk about diet. People who want to lose weight, they have to learn to food prep. That's the only successful way. That's why companies like Ginny Craig and these shake companies, they people use those because they're left to their own devices to prepare 3 or 4 healthy meals a day. They just don't do it. They can't do it. It takes too much time. They have to work. They got to take the kids to soccer. So the reality is, if food prep is the key to success in a diet, then convenient sources of healthy foods are the success to food prep. And that's where biltong comes in. I want to talk about that for a second.
Yep.
But also, that's also where the spices come in too, because eating the same foods day in and day out get boring, but you can change the way they taste if you have access to spices. So first of all, I want to tell the audience a secret that I have been using. And Cory knows this because he was surprised that I went through a pound of biltong in 2 days. So 1 ounce of biltong is 16 grams of protein. Think about that, folks. 1 ounce of biltong is 16 grams of protein. So the average person is eating between 30 and 40 grams of protein per meal if they're eating 5 or 6 meals a day or 4 or 5 meals a day. Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I would take a complex carbohydrate of some sort, and it could be potatoes, it could be rice. And then I would take 2 ounces of biltong, throw it in a bag, I'd weigh, and that was a meal. That was a whole meal. That took me literally like 30 seconds to do. You were surprised how fast I went through the biltong, weren't you?
Yeah, well, if I compared it to my kids, actually, that was probably not as quick as them, but they're growing kids, so they need all the protein they can get.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes life so much easier to just pick your starch, there's your protein. It's already there. And as we know, most people don't get enough protein in their diet anyway. And they sit there and go, well, how can I get more? Well, like you said, with 1 ounce serving, you got 16 ounces, right? Or 16 grams of protein right there. You can very easily with our biltong and our Ovaries get the protein that you need in your diet.
Very quickly. And it's delicious. Everybody who bought this biltong can't believe how good it is because it's tender, it's moist, it's dense, and it's delicious. And I mean, part of the reason I go through it so fast is because it tastes so damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. We have a listener in South Africa named Andre who messaged me a couple weeks ago and said, I can't believe that you have biltong on your show. That's a popular meat product here in South Africa.
And actually, the people that we partnered with are one of the largest manufacturers of biltong in South Africa. So this isn't somebody in the U.S. who said, let's start making it. These are the people that do it for a living, where biltong is the most popular in the world. And they said, hey, we need to expand our presence. And they came to the U.S. So we partnered up with them to offer this, sugar-free, additive-free, healthy meat snacks to make everybody's lives easier with food prep and snacking.
Well, now let's talk about the sugar-free for a second. So everybody wants to avoid sugar. If you are a fan of beef jerky, chances are you're getting about as much sugar as in an Oreo cookie in a single serving. Think about that next time. Well, yeah. Think about that. Next time you eat your beef jerky, you think, oh, I'm going to get beef jerky. That's a good snack. Would eating an Oreo cookie with it have been a good choice? Of course not.
Nope. One of our customers that actually took pictures of a organic beef jerky, and when you flip the package over, per ounce had 12 grams of sugar.
Per ounce.
There was more sugar than there was fat and protein per serving.
So 2 ounces of that has as much sugar in it as a regular Pepsi. Yeah. I think that's 24 grams of sugar in a can of Pepsi.
And you figure, if anyone's like you or me, you're eating the whole bag, not a serving.
Yeah,
so
I know.
You're going to hit, 100 plus grams of sugar real quick if you just stick to the marketing on the front. Oh, it's organic, it's healthy. Flip it over and look at what else is in there. You'll be surprised.
Sorry, I was looking at a text message. I thought somebody was sending me a message about the biltong. So our audience has an amazing opportunity to save 15% off all orders of Select Savory Snack Biltong. If you go to the URL shrnetwork.biz/SSS, that's lowercase SSS, you'll be transported to a page that will not only save you 15% off the single best meat snack in the world. I guarantee it. If you buy a bag of this biltong and you say, this sucks, send it to me. I'll buy it back from you. I'm serious.
And you'll eat the rest of it.
Just don't spit in it to get even with me. But I'll buy it back from you. I really will, because the stuff is amazing. I have 10 pounds on the way right now. Just think about that for a second. So the other thing that you have there that is worthy of discussion when we talk about food prep. So, if you eat chicken for every meal, like a lot of people in our audience do, my go-to thing was mustard. I just squirted mustard and dipped it in mustard. You don't have to do that. Talk about some of the spices that you have and the quality of the spices that you have that will make everything taste great.
Yep. All of our spices, first of all, they're fresh, gourmet, sugar-free, additive-free, and we small batch produce them to keep them fresh. They are also, when you look at them, something we do that nobody else does, so we actually put a package on date on all of our seasonings, because you get about a 2-year shelf life out of spices. So you can look at that, add 2 to the year, and you know exactly how old it is. I've gone to the store and picked up jars of spices. The expiration date was 4 years away. I have no clue how old that was. And because of that, it tastes the flavor is so much more full, to the point I tell people start with half of what a recipe calls for, and you can add more as you go. Some of our best sellers, like our Ranch-tastic seasoning, compare that with everybody's favorite ranch packet. For example, that starts with maltodextrin as the first ingredient. What's that? Sugar. Whereas our Ranch-tastic is onion, garlic, salt, parsley, black pepper, and dillweed. That's it. It's all natural ingredients. There's no sugar, there's no additives, there's no fillers. Our savory taco seasoning is very popular. And if you prefer more of a spicy, I've had a couple people go, it's not as hot as I like. Get our fajita seasoning. That'll give you that extra, that bite you like. Meats, like you said, for chicken, our savory meat seasoning is good on all meats. If you're more of a white meat person in general, the Italian seasoning or our newer Mediterranean dry rub works really well with white meats. Basically, whatever you eat, we've got upwards of 60 to 70 different seasonings and blends that'll work for anybody's palate.
And you'll get 15% off all of those as well. If you go there to buy your biltong, and then you decide, well, I'm going to buy some seasoning too, using as long as you follow the link shrnetwork.biz/SSS, you'll get 15% off the entire order. So it's a really good one. So what else is new? You got anything coming? Anything you're working on that you can kind of give us a peek under in the tent?
In the background, with the holidays coming, we are in the process of bringing in several different holiday seasonings and spices. So to go along with our savory pumpkin spice, we've got a gingerbread spice coming in that, again, is sugar-free. So there's no garbage in there. We also have some of your typical holiday spices coming in. So nutmeg, clove, ginger, the things that you're going to use for your sweeter desserts and so forth, the treats. And we'll have, of course, the 15% off promo that we have right now. We'll work with all of those once they come in. Let's see here. That should be the first full week of October, roughly, is when they'll be on the website and ready to go. We're just waiting for them to arrive right now.
Who creates the spices and the blends? You?
I work together with the company that does all the work for me. So working together with them, we work on the best options. In some cases, it's they have a blend, and I just tell them, look, that looks great. Pull the sugar out. That's what I want.
Yeah, and right.
They make it for me.
Do they ever try to discourage you? Do they ever say, "Oh, Cory, you can't pull the sugar out. That's what people like"?
No. So long as I'm willing to pay for it, they're willing to give it to me. I mean, that's where our Who Needs the French Onion Soup Mix came from. I looked at it, and sugar was like the second to last ingredient. And I'm like, it's such a, first of all, a minor part of it. I'm like, just pull it out. And it's been insanely popular because people love that onion soup mix. And you don't need it just for soups, but you make a great dip with it. Awesome for chuck roast or pot roasts, hamburgers. So they said, sure, we'll give it a try. You buy what we ask you to, and we'll do it for you.
So you have a French onion soup spice mix?
Yep.
It's delicious.
It is amazing. See if I can find real quick.
Now, could I use so I would use that and actually maybe put some onions in it, and that would make my broth, basically, right?
Yeah, it would. And actually, it's with the onion that's in there. I would try it without it, and then add some onion if you like it for the texture. But You're looking at it's blended from minced onion, parsley flakes, turmeric, onion powder, celery salt, and black pepper.
And no monosodium glutamate or any of that crap, right?
No silicon dioxide, none of the garbage. No maltodextrin, none of that garbage they put in there.
You know what silicon oxide is? Sand.
I looked it up. I can't remember. Okay.
Sand. It's pulverized sand. It's an anti-conglomerating agent. It keeps stuff from sticking together. Keeps stuff from caking. It's sand.
So that'll just sandpaper you from the inside out.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I ate sand when I was a kid. My mother would make me potato and egg sandwiches, and I'd take them to the beach, and I'd be chewing, and I feel that crunch, But I didn't go out of my way to eat sand. They actually put sand in food. Yeah, silicon oxide.
They put basically sawdust in some fillers also.
Yeah.
A cellulose based. You're like, wait a minute, why am I eating sawdust in here? I don't need this, and it's not doing me any good. So we don't even bother with it.
This is a non sequitur, but it's worth talking about because we're talking about how you strive to take sugar out of everything. A court has just ordered Subway Corporation to stop calling their bread bread.
Yep.
Because it has so much sugar in it that it doesn't qualify as bread. Think about that. What are they going to call it? What are they going to call it if they can't call it bread? We go spongy white stuff. Have one of our Italian hub subs on spongy white stuff.
I mean, well, it's just like, you know, the fake meat that they sell. They can't call it meat anymore because it's not. Well,
Right.
It's not bread either. There's so much sugar and starch in that no wonder people get addicted to Subway.
And about 8 years ago, we were doing an episode of Casual Friday with Elisa Profumo, and she talked about a study that showed that they had a compound in Subway bread that's the same compound they use to make yoga mats.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Think about that.
I mean, margarine is just, you know, 1 or 2 ingredients away from being
a plastic.
It's like, wait a minute. Canola oil and some of the oils that we are healthy, they were industrial lubricants before they found a way to sanitize them, make them look good, to then sell them because they couldn't make money on them any other way.
So canola oil has an interesting story. It's a horrible oil. It's a pro-inflammatory oil. Yep. It's actually called rape, R-A-P-E, rapeseed oil. Yep. But they didn't think that would sell.
Yep.
Rapeseed oil, because it had been associated, as you point out, with industrial lubricants.
Mm-hmm.
So a company in Canada that was the primary source of rapeseed oil called it canola oil, which stood for the Canadian Oil Company oil, Canadian Oil Company. So that's what canola. There is no. I always ask people. They say, "Oh, canola oil is so good." I say, "What's a canola?"
Where'd it come from?
Yeah, what's a canola? Oh, it's a bean, isn't it? See, no, it's not a bean. There's no such thing as a canola.
It is an industrial byproduct of other farming industries. And if you want to see something disgusting, go watch how it's made and look up canola oil.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Bleaches in it, but anyway, deodorizers. They put deodorizers in it so it doesn't stink anymore. So anyway, getting back to biltong, why is biltong so much more dense with protein than plain old beef jerky?
It's because it's not cooked. All beef jerky is either dehydrated, it's smoked. It goes through some sort of a cooking process which reduces the protein yield. Biltong is air dried in a controlled environment, so it's marinated. Once it's been marinated, it's cut into strips and hung on stainless steel racks and put into a temperature and humidity controlled room. And 7 to 14 days later, you have biltong. You run it through a slicing machine, which gives you what you see when it arrives in the mail, and off you go.
Very
simple.
I had it the first time I had it. John Bolger gave it to me when I was in Ireland, and his came from South Africa, and I love this stuff. It was amazing. And I fell in love with it then, and now I can't live without it. It's fantastic. And like I said, I can have 30, 40 grams, 50 grams of protein, whatever I want. I just take the strips and weigh them, throw them in my bag, and go.
Yeah, it's a real easy way to get the protein that you need. It's a great travel companion too. Going hiking, taking a flight. I recommend people that are going to do that, get the 16-ounce bag and then downsize it. If you get a vacuum sealer, make 2-ounce bags, throw them in the freezer. The other day my wife texted me, "Hey, we're going on a hike today. Can I go grab some from the office?" Sure, go for it. And that was their lunch for the day. It was actually just eating biltong as they walk around all day.
So let's talk about that. So once the bag is opened, should it be refrigerated?
Not necessary. I'd eat it within a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks at the worst, but no need to refrigerate it. But if you're going to vacuum seal it, you could use the freezer for longevity purposes.
Okay, so what is the shelf life if the bag is unopened versus open? Tommy D is asking.
It is over 6 months. So the bag I've got in front of me has April 8th of next year on it, and I got this about a month and a half ago. So it's well over 6 months shelf life. Don't have to refrigerate it. You can just leave it on the shelf and it'll be good for 6 to 8 months.
But if you do want it to last longer, you can freeze it in small portion controlled pouches, and then frozen it lasts indefinitely. How's the texture when it comes out of the freezer and you eat it?
It stays about the same. It doesn't change that much. Yeah.
Just let it thaw at room temperature overnight, or let it thaw in the refrigerator overnight.
Either or would work. I mean, the nice thing is it's so thin. If you did use the refrigerator, you don't have to leave it out on the counter overnight because it's so thin. It should thaw on its own in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The product is called Select Savory Snacks Biltong. It's an amazing product. I love it. You get 15% off, and don't forget to pick up some of it. As long as you're going to go buy it, pick up some spices also. 15% off all orders if you go to the website shrnetwork.biz/SSS. Show Cory some love. He's a sponsor. He's a new business, and he's not spending any money anywhere else but with this audience. And there's a reason for that. So show him some love. Try the biltong. I promise you'll love it. Everybody that buys it, I tell people that once you try it, you'll never want to be without it.
Yep.
That's how I feel about it too. And everybody I know, my friend Billy Mitchell was telling me the other day, he's like, man, I love this biltong. He goes, I'm going through it so fast.
Yep.
So Tommy says, stuff is awesome. Thanks. So he obviously has tried it. There you go. Yeah.
And
Tommy, would you recommend people try it, Tommy? And we'll wait for you to respond. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Once you've tried it, once you've used the promo that we have going on with you guys, if you sit there and go, wow, this stuff's amazing, we do have a basically subscribe and save. You can set up 3, 4, or 6 week subscription, and we automatically send it out to you. So you don't have to worry about, oh no, I'm running out. However often you decide to pick which size you want us to ship you. So I've got a couple of people that every 4 weeks they get 4 pounds. They get a pound a week basically, and it just automatically renews, kicks it out, and you don't have to worry about it showing up. It'll just come out every single time for you. And that's discounted. I think it's a 15% discount when they sign up for that too. And
Tommy says, when I said to him, would you recommend it to people? He said, absolutely. So there's the guys over at Metrex and Dr. Scott Connolly, their model for protein was just under $2 or less per serving. And that's exactly what this biltong works out to be. Yep. I mean, it's really a good price too, per serving. He says, unlike anything I've tried before. Yeah, it is. It is. It's got this moist, oily kind of feel to it, not greasy, and it's soft. Unlike beef jerky, which is like a house shingle, it's soft and bendable.
Yep.
It's chewy. It's not hard like beef jerky. You got to work it for a while before you can even chew it.
Yeah, you got to kind of stick it in the corner of your mouth, let your saliva soften it up before you eat it.
Yeah. This stuff is chewy. It's delicious. The flavor is unbelievable. I don't know what spices they put on it. There's some unique spices on it, I think, but the flavor is unbelievable.
And actually, it's beef, vinegar, salt, spices, rosemary, dried beef powder, dried vinegar, and that's it.
The vinegar is what it is. The vinegar is unique. That's what. Now that you said it, it's the vinegar. This stuff tastes amazing. It's fantastic. Cory, this is a great product. You should be proud selling it, and people should be proud buying it. He's a good guy. It's a good company. Go to shrnetwork.biz/SSS, and that's all lowercase. Save 15% off your biltong and pick up some spices while you're there. The holidays are coming. You need spices anyway. And plus, it helps you with food prep. You make everything taste fantastic. Cory, thanks for being here today, brother, and thanks for being a sponsor.
I appreciate all the help.
And we'll talk to you soon. I got 10 pounds coming. You're all jealous of me, right? I know everybody's jealous of me. All right, Cory. Talk to you later, brother. All right, and that's it for today's show. We hopefully, I do these shows about menopause, and I know that there's a lot of guys in the audience, and they're like, oh, man, menopause. Carl's talking about menopause again. Like, we really don't want to hear about that. But there are women in your life that need to hear that. So share those shows with a mom, a sister, a wife, whoever it is that you think could use hearing that stuff, because menopause is horrible. Women, if you went through menopause, the dudes out there watching the show right now, if you went through menopause, you'd realize how horrible it is for women. It's very, very unfair. And the medical orthodoxy really doesn't do anything for women today. So share that show, and we'll see you tomorrow. tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Wait, it looks like we have another comment here. Tommy says he bought a bunch for his Mexico trip, and it worked perfectly. There you go. You weren't going to starve no matter where you went. Wonderful idea. Wonderful idea. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for watching and listening today.